our next speaker is Kevin Szawala, as his name is Mr. Peace. He will share his experience and involvement in the community as an individual that believes that peace could be achieved only by peace. Please welcome him.
Full-time youth minister right here close to Livonia over at St. Mary's in Milford, Michigan. But my off days, I travel the U.S. I do school assemblies, ages K through 12, grades K through 12, all over the United States. And before I begin any of my talks, before I start speaking to my audiences, I'd just like to let you know, everybody that's here today, that every single breath that I take this afternoon is going to be worth your time. Before you blink, you're all grown up and life has passed you by. Because you weren't fully present and then you wonder why. People are dying with the music still left inside and wishing they found their purpose at age 25 or 32 or in their 80s, really any time. Just so long as they found it before their last rites. I've had friends tell me, Peace, I need something besides the drugs. They want to get involved in serving others out of love. But other buddies who have actually former volunteer, opportunities so they can bring some more cheer. They want to give more than they have, especially to kids living on the streets or in an orphanage. So do something major, minor, heck, do something drastic. Just do something, but please don't wreak no more havoc. And while you're at it, now that you are spiritually awoken, make sure to change those around you through every word that's spoken. Word. If everyone just takes a quick deep breath, right? Just breathe in that Schoolcraft air, that Livonia, VisTaTech air, right? Every day, on average, we take about 23,000 breaths. 23,000 breaths. And if we're fortunate enough to live to be about 80, on average, you'll have taken about 673 million breaths. 673 million. Heartbeats, on average, we're taking about 115,000 a day. And if we're lucky enough to be kicking it when we're 80 still, on average, you'll have taken about 3.4 billion heartbeats. But the goal is to make as many of those breaths and as many of those heartbeats count as possible. If everyone just does this real quick, makes a fist, and then just goes like this. No, don't do that. This right here is your fist, right? And your fist is as big as your heart, unless you're the Grinch who stole Christmas, right? Depends what time of the movie. But your heart, if we allow compassion and love and kindness and peace to fully enter into our hearts, we can turn this into this. And the reason it's two, right? The reason it's peace right here, it's two, is because one finger is yourself, and ideally one is somebody that you're trying to lift up even higher than yourself, if you choose that. And it's two as well because it takes just 2 seconds, and you can empower somebody, encourage them, lift them up higher than the clouds, or in the same amount of time you can destroy somebody forever, right? I had a 5-year-old come up to me a few years ago, a kindergartner. I do school assembly, right? And she came up to me and said, "Hey, Mr. Peace, I'm getting bullied." And I said, "Okay, when did it start?" And she said, 10 minutes ago. I said, "Okay, it's probably not bullying, because for it to be bullying, it has to be over and over and over and over and over and over again on purpose to get power over somebody. But it's just as important because that one action, that one word, can potentially save a life or destroy a life." So once we start to realize the impact of our actions, right, and we start to see that, every breath we take, every heartbeat we take can potentially leave a huge impact on others, it's a call for all of us that we have to get past any pain in our lives. I've talked to over 500,000 youth over the last 10 years, all across this country, primarily here in this state, Metro Detroit especially. But the biggest reason that I see why people bully is that hurt people, right? That's a choice. But if I'm hurting, the easy thing to do is to hurt someone else. What I've also found is that healed people heal people, and that's also a choice. So we have to be able to move past this pain, because if we don't move past all of that and past all of our fears, which is false evidence appearing real and forgetting everything's all right, right? If we don't move past that, then we're not all in on this planet, bless you, all in on this earth. And we can't be giving all of who we are to the people around us, the people that are in need. And we have to, guys, because we realize that our actions can potentially save lives. Every talk, I bring these bracelets with me. This is just one bag I took today. I have thousands of these. And every bracelet that's been given to me were from people your age, some older, some younger, that I've spoken to. Who have told me, Mr. Peace, if you didn't come speak to us today, I wouldn't be here tomorrow. I had a similar talk at a middle school in Howell, Michigan, a couple of years back, and I came back 2 weeks later for the 8th grade graduation ceremony. And I was sitting in the back, and this mom got up at the end of the ceremony. It was an open mic for the parents. You could share what's on your heart. And she could barely stand. She had a cane. And she stood up and she said, I'm fighting cancer, but I just wanted to be here today for my daughter Julie, to see her graduate. I checked myself out of the hospital against doctor's orders. And she said, I just want to thank Mr. Peace for saving her life. And she didn't know that I was in the back. But she said the day that I spoke, Julie came home, went into her room, pulled out a letter, ran to the living room, and tore it up in front of her mom and hugged her. Told the same story at Churchill High School, and at lunchtime, and our 11th grader here in Livonia came up to me crying and said, Mr. Peace, I'm going to tear mine up tonight too. Spoke to Heartland Middle School, a 7th grader came up to me and said, Mr. Peace, I got a whole journal full of those, I'm going to burn them tonight. My reality is a 5th grader just sent me a DM last night, said, Mr. Peace, I threw away razor blades and I tore my letter up last night. This bracelet probably means the most to me. This was in someone's wallet. A student who came up to me from right here in Novi and said, Mr. Peace, I don't want to carry this anymore. His hospital band from an unsuccessful attempt. All of us, all of you, have that same power. Not only impact lives and change lives, but to possibly save lives. And look, I'm not saying that it's easy. I had a 7th grader email me named John, and a week after I spoke at his middle school in Wisconsin, he got tripped by this bully, right? And he got tripped, and he told me that he stood right back up, and he walked over to the bully, and he smiled at him, and he shook his hand and said, have a great day. And he walked away. And the bully's mouth dropped. Everybody watching in the hallway, their mouths dropped, because they expected him to fight back. They expected him to cry, or they expected him to run. And he did the total opposite, and the biggest thing that this person needed. He showed him love. This person that's screaming inside, hurting inside themselves. To love our enemies is not easy by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a must, right? And it takes guts, it takes courage. The biggest act of courage that I got to witness was a school in Southern California. There were 2,000 students. And at the end of the assembly, there was an open mic. You could share what's on your heart. And this girl gets up in the gym, a stage kind of like this, and she was born with one leg shorter than the other, so she kind of had a handicap when she walked, and she kind of had a limp. And she learned slower than some of her classmates, so she was always getting teased because of those two things, right? Laughing stock of the school. And she gets on the mic, and the first words out of her mouth, she says, I like boys. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, oh, what are you doing? Sit back down, please, no. She says, no, I love boys. And we're like, oh. People are like laughing, they're like, sides are hurting, they're laughing so hard. Some teachers are starting to laugh. People are laughing so hard, they're tinkling their pants a little bit. And she goes and says, and I love that boy. And She points to the star football player of the high school. This guy's a 5-star All-American quarterback, ESPN top 100 recruits, California Dream Boy, like Golden Hercules mane locks coming down his backside, and 210 pounds, like pure muscle, pure steel, kind of like my frame. And when he walks through the hallways, when he walks through the hallways, they just part, right? He's so cool. People are like, ooh, ah, it just parts. And so right then in this moment, he has a choice of whether he's going to do something to potentially save a life or join in on the laughter in front of 2,000 of his classmates and staff. He stands up, bleachers part, and he runs down the gym floor and up on the stage, and he scoops this girl up, and he grabs her and twirls her around, and he sets her back down and gives her one of the biggest hugs that she's ever had in her life. What happened next took 3 hours. For the next 3 hours, every one of those 2,000 students and teachers came up one at a time and gave her the same type of hug and a word of encouragement. It took 3 hours. School in Utah, boy got on stage, at the end of the assembly. He had a syphilitic head, Soto syndrome. His head was bigger proportionally than the rest of his body. And his first words out of his mouth, he said, "I didn't mean to be born like this. I didn't mean to be born like this. I need friends. Will someone be my friend?" And his sister in the back of the auditorium stood up and ran over and gave him the same type of hug, started the same reaction. School in Chicago, a girl got on the mic, a 10th grader. She said, "Look, I'm here to just squash the rumors that have been going on about me. For the last 8 weeks, she's been missing school." And she said, "I'm 16 years old. The reason I've been missing school is because I'm fighting cancer. I've been going to chemotherapy treatments." She said, "I thought I could do it alone, but I can't. I need friends." She took off her wig. 2 girls jumped up from the front row, embraced her, and started the whole chain again. And these people, they risked getting made fun of themselves, getting judged themselves, getting teased themselves, getting spit on themselves, getting stepped on, bullied themselves, just to include someone into this world that otherwise would never be welcome. They risked everything, and that's beautiful. And look, guys, the need's beyond there. The Center for Disease Control just released their latest figures in early November. Back in 2000, the cause of death for ages 10 to 14, middle schoolers, the cause of death was traffic accidents, the number 1. And it surpassed suicide by 5 times. Their latest figures from 2014 that they just released, suicide has finally passed the cause of death for ages 10 to 14 as the number 1 leading cause of death. All of us have about 60 to 78,000 thoughts per day, on average. From tying your shoe, to whether or not you're eating Frosted Flakes or Fruity Pebbles, to whether or not we actually think positive thoughts about ourselves. And research has just shown that out of those 60 to 78,000, 80% are negative in nature. And out of those 60 to 78,000, 98% are the same thoughts you had yesterday. We're creatures of habit. But a huge habit that we need to break is telling ourselves that we're not good enough, bullying ourselves, being violent to ourselves, because your brain doesn't know the difference. Whatever you tell it, it believes. To be able to look in the mirror and see something else. I was telling a couple of you before I walked in, I'm speaking out at Sandy Hook next week. All week in Connecticut. And they don't want to focus on the tragedy. That's what they told me. They want to be focused on a proactive solution, and that's what we need to do too. Where my new hashtag is to make America kind again. Where kindness matters, where we be kind to one another, and that's their campaign, and that's what I choose to push with my life, the way that I live, right? Every one of us has the letter M etched on one of our palms. If you guys look at one of your palms, every one of you has the letter M etched on it. Letter M. This M stands for Michigan. No, I'm joking. This M, I actually just spoke to a school in Columbus yesterday, and I said that, and I almost got kicked out. No. But this M stands for miracle. stands for miracle. But we have to believe that, right? Because so many people that look in the mirrors, they don't see that. And so it's up to us to be that reflection to them and tell them that they are this upside down W, that they are worthy, right? This note I was given to from a 7th grader named Dylan, locally from Metro Detroit. He was carrying this around, and he said, after my talk, Mr. Peace, I don't want to carry this anymore. He said, I'm a mistake. That was his only belief of what he saw in himself. And he said, if I didn't come today, he might not have seen the light tomorrow. He gave this to me, and he replaced that belief with this, which all of us need to do. So, lay go my ego and let go my ego. And please give me all I could ever need and more. To not be afraid to cause a commotion, to not be a robot going through the motions. I won't conform, heck no, I'll be formed by the truth till I've broken every single norm. And been transformed, call me Optimus Prime. Bulletproof to temptation and any man's lies. Don't shy off the beaten path, freaking leap off it. And the mold they put you in, scream out it. Because when bombarded by torrential rain, the only way to get through it is to face strain. Take it head on, embrace for any consequence. People hating up a storm weather's inclement, but I'm chomping at the bit ready to make a scene, till the coward in me's been blown to smithereens. Giving off a loving odor anywhere I go, the aroma of peace drench my soul. And any ramification coming my way, same approach Gandhi used back in the day. Thanks for touching my heart, guys. I appreciate it.